Hi there, welcome to the Upcycle Design Lab. My name's Cindy, and if you haven't guessed already, I like to craft and make things with recycled and repurposed materials. If you're new here, I hope you'll stick around and check out some of my other upcycling tutorials. And if you like what you see, you can check the subscribe button below any of my videos. Also, if you'd like to get notifications when I upload new videos, be sure to check the bell icon as well. And if you enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up. It really does help YouTube to notice my channel. Anyway, whatever brought you here, I'm so happy you're here. I hope you'll find some inspiration to rethink the things you throw away. And if you're motivated to upcycle a project of your own, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear about it. There are so many ideas out there on how to reuse old materials. I really hope you'll give upcycling a try. You can do small projects or big projects. The sky really is the limit if you let your imagination go. Over the years, I've created a lot of smaller projects, including some decorations for Halloween, Christmas, and other holidays. But currently, I'm working on a much bigger project. And if you've seen some of my recent videos, you know that I'm working to remodel my messy craft room. It all started with a cardboard wall and sort of mushroomed into a whole series of upcycling projects to make over my craft room. In my last video, I made some cardboard frames, and it struck me that my style was a little more Alice in Wonderland than Martha Stewart. So for today's project, I've decided just to embrace that Alice in Wonderland idea and take it a little farther with my upcycled no-sew window shades. One last thing before we get started, if you've missed any of the projects in this series, you can get to all the links in the comment section below. Alright, so here I am in my basement, and you can see my cardboard frames behind me there. But today we're going to be working on the no-sew curtains. So to start with, I have two small windows in my craft room, and I took the measurements of the window and then I added 1 inch on each side, 6 inches on the top, and 3 inches on the bottom. And then I just took an old sheet and cut the sheet to those dimensions. So now what I'm doing is I'm taping down all the edges of one of the pieces. I have a big piece of cardboard underneath here, and I'm just taping the sheet to the cardboard so that I can put a coat of primer paint on. For this first coat, you want to brush kind of gently. You can see that the sheet has a tendency to shift and move a little bit. So you want to just put on the first coat kind of gently. But once this first coat dries, the piece will be a little bit stiffer and it's much easier to add the additional coats of paint. So my first layer of paint is dry, and I'm going to flip the piece over now and put a coat of the primer paint on the back of the curtain. The reason I'm using primer paint is because I'm going to use a kind of light colored top color, and since this was a darker sheet, I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to do several layers of paint. And you can see here that the sheet is stiff enough for me to paint it without taping, and on this side I am going to go all the way to the edge of the sheet. So here both of the sides are dry, and I am going ahead and just kind of re-squaring everything off. Even though the sheet was torn to the exact dimensions, it does get a little out of skew when you paint it, so you probably want to check your sides and make sure that everything is still square. So here I'm just marking my edges again and trimming off a little bit of the edging. Once everything was square, I was ready to make the sides of my curtain. So I'm marking the piece 1 inch on each side, and then I'm going to fold and glue those edges down. And I'm folding toward the side that isn't painted all the way to the edge, and as you'll see, it just covers up that area that isn't painted. One note before you do the folding and gluing, you do want to double check your finished measurements, because if you ended up trimming off any of the edging, you may have a little bit less to fold back. So you just want to make sure that you're always working off of your finished dimensions. You can buy special fabric glue, but because I like to use what I have on hand, I'm actually just using some wood glue here to glue down the sides of my piece. To make the bottom of the curtain, I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I did on the sides, only I'm folding it at 3 inches instead of an inch. So now I'm ready to apply my top coat, and I'm going to start on the back of the curtain and paint all the way to the edges, and then I'll let that dry and I'll flip it over and I'll paint the front of the curtain as well. Once all the paint's dry, you're ready to go ahead and do the folding. So I'm starting at the bottom of the curtain and I'm using the 3-inch line that I folded up to make the bottom to make a fan fold of 3 inches all the way up to the top of the curtain. To make the hardware for the curtain, I'm using some pull tabs from some pop cans, some brass paper fasteners, and some washers. And then I'm going to glue the pieces together with some E6000 glue. So to make the front piece, I'm using the brass paper fastener, and I'm going to glue a washer around the top of it. And for the back piece, I'm using a washer and the pull tab, and I'm using some E6000 glue to glue those together as well. For my project, I've determined that I need 12 of each of these for each curtain, so I'm going to do a total of 24 pieces of each of these. So I'm ready to add the hardware to my curtain, and this might be a little confusing, but I'm working on the back side of the curtain, and I'm marking on the fold that is pointing up where I want to put the hardware. So I'm going to put them 2 inches from the side and 1 in the middle, and then I need to put marks and holes on the bottom of the curtain and all of the folds that are facing up. So once I have all of my holes made, I'm ready to go ahead and put the hardware through. So I'm going to take the brass fastener and I'm going to put it through on the right side. And then I'm going to take my back piece that's made with the pull tab and the washer. And I have a little bit of E6000 glue on it as well, just to hold it straight up so that it won't swing back and forth. And I'm going to put it on with the washer facing toward the curtain, and then I want to separate the brass fastener and tuck the ends behind the pull tab. Alright, so here's where my project goes off the rails a little bit. But as I mentioned in my intro, I am kind of going with an Alice in Wonderland theme. So I decided to add some quotes from Alice in Wonderland to my curtains. You could certainly skip this step and just leave your curtains plain if you preferred. So to make my art, I just used regular printer paper, and I printed out my quotes in the mirror reflection so that I could paint the opposite side of the paper and still see my letters to cut them out. So once I had all of my letters cut out, I laid them out on my curtain where I wanted them, and then I used some Mod Podge, a nice soft paintbrush, and I had a little bit of water handy in case I needed it to apply my designs to the curtains. Here's another step you could probably avoid if you used the matte finish Mod Podge, but all I had was glossy. So my letters looked kind of glossy, and it was glossy around the letters, and the rest of the curtain had sort of a matte finish. So I decided to put on a quick coat of Minwax Clear Gloss Polycrylic. Once all of the hardware is in place, you can go ahead and add the cording. And you want to just make sure that you have the cording long enough. So my suggestion is to just start with pieces that are 5 times the length of your drape. And here I'm just tying the piece of cording to the bottom of the curtain, and I'm going to go ahead and lace it through the rest of the pull tab pieces. So the final step before we hang the drapes is to add a piece of cardboard to the top of the drape, because we're going to be nailing it into the windowsill. So I've cut a piece the width of my curtain and about 3 inches wide so that I can wrap the curtain around it, and then I'm just going to glue the piece to the curtain. Alright, so I ran into a little snag when I was trying to hang my first curtain. I was going to hang it on this inside edge here, and I found out that it was metal, so I can't actually nail to that. So I'm going to have to come out to this edge here. And what that means is that my measurements were a little bit off. So I had to add a little bit of edging to the sides of my curtain. So here's the bottom of the curtain here, and you can see the side where I've just painted some more of my old sheet in a contrasting color, and then I just folded the piece in half and glued it with some more wood glue to the back of my curtain. So now my curtain is a little bit wider. All right, so hopefully this is going to make sense. I'm going to try and explain how this gets attached to the window and how the little pulley system is going to work to draw the curtain up and down. So this is the top of the curtain here, and this piece right here is where I've glued the cardboard. So the nails are going to be through this side, and then this piece will be up against the top of the windowsill. So you can nail it as firmly as you want to, use as many nails as you need. But the other thing that you need to do is there needs to be a small eyelet close to the top edge in line with each of your draw cords. So you're going to have 3 eyelets across the top of the windowsill as well that you can thread this cording through. And then I ended up putting one more eyelet against the windowsill just to make the pulley system work a little smoother. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the curtain that I've already hung up and show you how the hardware goes in. Alright, so this is pretty awkward. I have my head under the drape, but you can see the cording running through the first eyelet, and then through the second eyelet you're going to have the first cord and the second cord. Through the last eyelet you're going to have all 3 cords, and then like I said, I put an additional eyelet on the wall here so that the cording would have a direction to go down the wall as well. So not sure if I can get a shot of all of that, but this is basically what the back side, the underside of your drape is going to look like. So the last piece of hardware that you need is this rope cleat, and it's just used to hold the cord when your drape is open. So I'm going to back up here, try to show you the whole drapery. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this project, please feel free to ask them in the comments area. This project did turn out to be a little more complicated than I thought it was going to be. If you've missed any of the other projects in this series, you can also find links to those in the comments section as well. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you again soon.